it would be wrong to think that somehow, like, I don't know, the DNC just made a mistake with Biden. And that's what a lot of my guests have said over the last few years, that the memory issues or the cognitive capacity of President Biden is built into the recipe. It's not a fluke. It wasn't a mistake. Like anyone's going, "Oh man, we just didn't realize it was this bad." Which is why I think it's very interesting that now you're seeing headlines like this. Damning report reveals Biden's memory lapses are increasing. This is the New Republic. Vox. Did the media botch the Biden age story? Asleep at the wheel, complicit in a cover up? The real story is far more complicated and more interesting. And here's another New York Times article. Biden's lapses are said to be increasingly common and worrisome. People who have spent time with President Biden over the last few months or so said the lapses appear to have grown more frequent, more pronounced, and after Thursday's debate, more worrisome. So they're worried. They're worried now because the New York Times would not have run this story if it wasn't now something all of a sudden that the journalists are now worrying about. And as I have said many times before, often the news is a projection of the newsroom's emotional and or physical, spiritual issues. Because whatever a journalist is worried about, they want you to be worried about. Whatever they're not worried about, they're going to downplay. For whatever reason in 2020, they were not worried about this. For whatever reason now in 2024, they are worried about it. So they're saying it's worrisome, right? Like when they say more worrisome, let's go back to that just real fast. Like to whom? To whom is it more worrisome? Because this is how these headlines often are written, right? Or even in the articles, it's like it's just more worrisome. Well, who's worried? I mean, this is something as you're reading the news, you just got to pay attention to, or when you're watching it on television, when they just say it's worrisome. What does that even mean? To whom is it worrisome, right? Or they'll say like experts say, which experts? Please qualify that, okay? So the headlines are everywhere. I'm going to show you CNN's homepage in a second. It's hilarious. I mean, it is like the entire homepage is about Biden and his cognitive issues, and then who they are now gunning for to be president of the United States. And this switch that has just flipped, it's really, really, really interesting, regardless of how you vote. I knew that something was going on when a friend of mine came to visit and told me that she watched part of the debate and she's like, you know what, I voted for Biden in 2020. I don't think I'm going to vote for him again. And explained to me about like the cognitive issues. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, this is really fascinating that she's talking about it because this stuff was out there years ago, like during 2020. She was also concerned about spending for the Israel-Hamas conflict. And I would say, though, that the cognitive issues are on the forefront of her mind. So it made me realize, well, she must be seeing this in the news. There must be something that is getting people to start talking about this because this stuff has been around. It's like, why are we talking about it now? All right, well, look, whether you're listening to President Trump or President Biden and you're sitting there thinking, what is coming out of this guy's mouth? Maybe you're thinking, I must be drunk. None of this makes any sense. No, you're not. Because you know what? You are drinking AlisonWinePromo.com and you don't need to get drunk to enjoy AlisonWinePromo.com. You just need a little bit. That's how good this wine is. These are amazing, limited edition, like, you know, the kind of wines that come from hand-picked vineyards, hand-picked grapes, natural fermentation, extremely high altitude between 6,000 and 9,000 feet. And now we have Open the Wine Club, which is now an actual club. You don't just buy a few bottles of wine. You get a shipment of 6 bottles of wine every 3 months. So we're all drinking the same ones. You get all the history behind them, who's making them, how they were made, all that good stuff. And on top of it, you get to support the show. So you'll always have a gift. You know, you went to a 4th of July party yesterday. You brought Busch Light. All your friends are looking at you like, are you kidding me? Busch Light. It comes out the same color as it goes in. That's what I always tell my husband. I don't drink beer that comes out the same color it goes in. All right. Drink something different. Bring an Alison Wine promo. Tell them it's for independence, real independence, independence of speech. And don't bring Busch Light anymore. I'm sorry if that's your favorite beer. I frankly think it's disgusting. AlisonWinePromo.com. I don't know if the wine people are going to get mad at me for disparaging another brand. But anyway, I'm just saying, if you want something good to drink, AlisonWinePromo.com. And you'll always have a great gift. So what is my favorite of all of the articles? I will show you. It's written by Dr. Sanjay Gupta. It's time for President Biden to undergo detailed cognitive and neurological testing and share his results. I found this very interesting because I'm going to show you a video in a second, at least part of it, of a report Sanjay Gupta did in 2020. about the exact same issue. All right. He says here, for me as a brain specialist, it was concerning to watch President Joe Biden. This is talking about the debate. Okay. It was concerning to watch President Joe Biden. It quickly became clear that I was not alone in my reaction. Over the past week, I received more than a dozen calls, texts, and emails from medical colleagues who, like me, specialize in the brain. It wasn't that what we noticed was necessarily new, but that it was particularly pronounced and right from the start of the debate. Okay, so it wasn't new. It was more pronounced. Okay, do you guys believe that? I mean, what does that mean? From a neurological standpoint, we were concerned with his confused rambling, sudden loss of concentration in the middle of a sentence, halting speech, and absence of facial animation, resulting at times in a flat, open-mouthed expression. To be clear, these are only observations, not in any way diagnostic of something deeper, and none of these doctors wish to suggest that was the case. The consensus from the doctors reaching out to me, however, was that the president should be encouraged to undergo detailed cognitive and movement disorder testing, and those results should be made available to the public. And I think this is so interesting because I really do not see anything written in here that is surprisingly different from what was happening 4 years ago. So why are they calling for medical testing now? I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I'm going to give you my guesses, like I said, in a minute. Before we go to that, though, I want to show you a part of this video that Dr. Gupta did in 2020. Okay, so let's watch. Oh, wait, hang on. I have to present it. Wait, before I do that, let me present it with audio so you can actually hear it. Okay, here we go. Let me know if you can't hear it, okay?
We tried it in Iraq. It's not working. So now we're going to try, in Iran, excuse me. We tried in Ukraine.
We've performed 1.87 million tests today. So that's 1,870,000 million tests.
All men and women created by you know the thing.
It is true that everyone's sharpness changes a bit day to day. Could be a poor night's sleep, being distracted, low blood sugar, dehydration.
It's very dangerous to overinterpret mental slips when you see it in an older person. We know there are many factors that affect our mental acuity. They may look like they're not functioning as well cognitively, but they may be perfectly normal.
And as much as we think we know them, to diagnose a true cognitive problem is quite challenging, even for a professional.
Okay, if you just heard what I heard, it's like, first off, they show both presidents, at the time Biden wasn't president, but they show both guys stumbling because the video was trying to show that both of them have issues, which, by the way, I will say one of the things that concerns me the most about both guys is that they both take statins. Okay, now everybody in the United States knows that will probably know somebody that's on a statin. These are cholesterol medications, which, by the way, please, if you're somebody who has been told by your doctor that you have high cholesterol, you need to stop eating eggs, you need to go on statins or whatever, please read. I don't have it on my desk right now. Please read this book, Grain Brain, okay, by Dr. David Perlmutter. And do not listen to your doctor. I'm sorry, you need to do some more research. Don't just take what your doctor says as gospel, okay? The whole cholesterol thing is, when I read about how this whole thing breaks down and how important cholesterol is for your brain and what medical students are taught and how brainwashed doctors are about this issue, I couldn't believe it. It reminds me of vaccines, honestly. Like, please do your research about cholesterol, okay? But anyway, statins are terrible for the brain. And both Trump and Biden take statins, according to Dr. Gupta. I'm just throwing that out there. But what I hear in this video is basically, okay, they both, because they were trying to say, oh, they both take statins, which is funny, like when it suits somebody to talk about the dangers of statins, or they just throw it out there because it's like, whoa, it's a political thing. But see, Trump takes them too, and Biden takes them, and whatever. It's just funny because we just don't hear about it that often. But statins are not good for your brain. Anyway, I just saw him kind of saying like they're both having these issues we're seeing play out publicly. They stumble on their words. Sometimes they forget things. Trump says things like 870 million thousand. Biden can't remember countries. Whatever. They're older. It happens. And then also kind of makes excuses like, well, maybe they just had a bad night's sleep, or maybe they, had a bad dinner, or they're tired from doing A, B, or C. You can't judge them. And then there was that soundbite from the guy who was like, it's very dangerous to just take like one moment in time and judge somebody's cognitive ability. It's very dangerous to do that. But that's exactly what they're doing right now with this debate. So what am I missing here? because 4 years ago, it was like, oh, it was constant. I mean, there were constantly examples of Biden having issues, but like you would see videos like this play out, hey, don't just take, a couple here, a couple there, or like, one moment in time. And, also that like, it's just part of aging, and it happens. And maybe, and you know what, actually, what's even funnier, it's kind of like this article, which is sort of like the last remnant of how people were acting back in 2020. This is from Forbes. Demanding Biden step down because he's too old is wrong. Here's why. And basically, it goes through why it's ageist to knock somebody for the chronological number, which, actually, I'm not all about like isms, all the ageism or like sexism or whatever, but as I think that stuff gets wildly overused. But I do think, yeah, I've known some really sharp, like E.T., the guy who he became our friend because his horse we took in, and he's 87. He's a retired Baptist preacher. And that guy, he can run me into the ground physically, and he's very smart. And I don't know if I would vote for him for president, just because I do think maybe sometimes I have to scream into the phone to make sure he understands what I'm saying. But he's very smart, and he's 87 years old. And I know some people that are like a lot younger that, maybe they eat too much sugar, and I wouldn't put them up against him, So I get it that like the chronological thing is not what we should be focused on, but there's plenty of other reasons. And actually, there's plenty of other reasons besides cognitive issues to not vote for Biden. So, I mean, you don't even have to go here. But anyway, I just wanted to read something that I thought was interesting from this person. So they're just saying, like, you should be looking at what is the candidate's vision for the future? What is their plan for getting there? Are they trustworthy? Where does their monetary support come from? Is their vision for America what it needs right now? And this is what we need to consider. That after all, one poorly performed debate where the president was battling a cold, tired and hoarse from over practicing his debate responses during the 6 days he spent at Camp David, and by the way, still running the country, does not provide reason enough for the knee-jerk calls for the president to step down. But like I said, I mean, has anyone else been here for the last few years? Because it wasn't just one debate, but that's what everybody's focusing on. It makes me kind of wonder if like the debate is just being thrown out there as this, I don't know, it's just become this red herring. I'm not saying that the media is like purposely pushing this. I think most of the media is just parroting what everybody else is doing. Just kind of like with the lab leak, the lab leak storyline. First, it was like racist to talk about the Wuhan lab leak hypothesis. And then the second Fauci said he would like kind of considering it or something, then all of a sudden the media switched. And if you weren't paying very close attention to it, you were thinking, oh, now the media is doing real journalism and finally looking into the Wuhan lab hypothesis. But that's not what was happening at all. They were just doing the same thing they were doing before. This time they were just parroting Fauci's flip-flop. So they just ran with whatever was safe that he was saying in that particular case. It wasn't like they were going against the grain. So like that tells me in this particular case, like why has this become a safe topic? Why is it safe now to all of a sudden go after Biden? It wasn't safe for a long time. And I just think that that's something we need to ask. Okay. As we're watching this, I want to show you just one more part of this video. Okay. And then we're going to look at CNN's homepage, which is hilarious.
The way that a physician makes a clinical diagnosis is to have a clinical relationship, is to do a very comprehensive medical workup, to order specific imaging, brain imaging when needed, and then order specific cognitive assessments, a more elaborate battery of cognitive tests in order to really have any degree of accuracy.
So then, what do we really know about Donald Trump and Joe Biden's health? Based on the medical records released by the White House, President Trump is on a statin medication to manage his cholesterol. He is clinically obese. In 2018, the White House said Trump scored a 30 out of 30 on the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, which doctors use to screen for mild cognitive dysfunction. That same year, White House records indicate the president underwent a coronary calcium CT scan and scored 133, indicating that plaque is present and that he has a common form of heart disease. This past December, Biden released a summary of his medical history, which noted that he also takes a statin to lower his cholesterol and triglyceride levels, and he also takes Eliquis to prevent blood clots. He has an irregular heart rhythm known as non-valvular atrial fibrillation, or AFib, and he is of normal weight. Most notably, in 1988, Biden suffered a brain bleed due to a ruptured cerebral aneurysm and underwent 2 separate brain operations. His doctors say he hasn't had any recurrence of aneurysm since.
I got hospitalized.
Okay, I'll save you the rest of the grief in that video. But anyway, you get the point. It was basically like, look, they both have terrible health issues. But, he ends the piece by saying, or actually one of the people he interviewed says, pick the best person for the job. Don't worry about their health issues. And, on one hand, I guess, I could see what he's saying. Like, okay, there's a very good chance that nobody who runs for president is like very, very healthy, because the United States is full of really unhealthy people. And so demographically, you're very likely to get a person who's got health issues because we eat terrible food. But that said, I should just add that I do think that Dr. Gupta, whether his intentions are pure or not, is definitely seeming to flip in his most recent. And maybe he's just like, oh, I just watched this and I just thought it was a little weirder. But in the article, it's, like if he were to say, hey, it's been building up over the last 4 years, I've been watching and paying attention to it, but it's not. It's really about the debate. It's very weird to me that the debate has taken such a center stage on all of this one. So like, where are we going with this one? I'm going to tell you. Okay, in just a second. I do want to thank everybody who has texted Birch Gold to find out everything you've ever wanted to about switching your retirement over to precious metals. If you text Alison with 1 L, ALISON, to 989898 3. Sorry. See, I shouldn't run for president. See my cognitive abilities. 3 9/8. Okay. That's what you're texting. 989898. That's the number. And you should put Alison with 1 L in the box. Totally lonely at home. You have nothing to do. Nobody invited you over for July 4th, or you're just sitting at home with nothing to do because you're recovering from July 4th. Pull out the cell phone, make that cell phone bill worth its while, and text Alison to 989898. Really appreciate it. If you're somebody who has not been following the news, the US dollar took another hit when Saudi Arabia decided not to renew its 50-year petrodollar deal. Since 1974, Saudi Arabia has sold oil solely in US dollars. So this was a huge hit for our global economic dominance, which continues to decline. There are one other options than the US dollar, which means if there is less demand for the dollar, are you potentially looking at something besides the dollar to invest in? And that is why you might want to consider texting Birch Gold to find out more, again, about switching over your IRA or 401k into physical gold. They've been in business over 20 years. They have many 5-star reviews and have worked with thousands and thousands of customers. So again, text Alison with 1 L to 989898. Thanks to everybody over there who has done that. I also want to let everybody know you can send me real mail. You can send me real mail, P.O. Box 3355, Denellen, Florida, 34432. I love getting mail from people. I've gotten nice cards. I have gotten seeds. I'm going to show this. This was so awesome. I got Puerto Rican climbing cow pea, not PPE, not cow pea like they pee, but PEA. And this is this is a butternut squash, a pumpkin squash, which I don't know about because the bugs seem to eat all of those. But anyway, that was really nice. That was from Sylvia. And I get just notes of encouragement. If you want to send me your loose pocket change too, support the show, that is always welcome. So thanks to everybody who sends letters, sends support for the show. And also over at AlisonMorrow.locals.com, you can be on the editorial board for $5 a month. It's where you get to put your questions in ahead of time for interviews. We have a farmer coming on tomorrow who works with a co-op. She actually co-founded a co-op that does like raw dairy and grass-fed beef and stuff like that. And they had to dump $90,000 worth of raw dairy products because of state enforcement. She's going to come on and talk about that tomorrow. So if you're on the editorial board, you got to put in your questions. You still can. If you want to join the editorial board today, you'll see where I posted, hey, put in your questions. You get to put your questions in ahead of time for the interviews, and she'll be on tomorrow to talk about it. KBAZ, why did they deny the need for a cognitive test all these years? His personal physician said he was just fine. And right. I mean, it's just been, this is not a new story. That's, I guess, just the main issue I want to present here. This is just not new. Now, of course, there are headlines that are like this one: 6 in 10 US adults doubt mental capability of Biden and Trump. So there are articles now that are like kind of, okay, they're saying, yeah, people don't necessarily think this is great with Biden, but you know what? They don't trust Trump either. So both candidates suck, which sets us up for exactly what we have going on here on CNN's homepage, which I promised you I'd show you. Democrats start moving to Kamala Harris, and like the whole front page is about Biden and his issues. Okay, the subheadline: a widening group of leading Democrats, operatives, and donors feel that Biden's slow start to salvage his campaign just won't work. This is what's kind of tipping me off to, they're feeding the media this storyline now. Like whoever wants it to shift in this position is just kind of like moving the needle in this direction. So it's like making it safe to discuss this. Because remember, like we've talked about over the last few years, all of this stuff has been out there, but we're not talking about it. It's not because somebody on Locals was like, they just can't hide it anymore. I don't believe that. I think it's just as obvious as it was before. I don't think they're sitting here going, oh, we have to face it. We can't hide it anymore. I think for some reason they're all jumping on it together, in part, like I said, because it gets put in there. It's inserted into the narrative somehow. I don't know exactly how this works all the time. But then they all just run with it because it's like, oh, they looked at their buddies, all did it, so it's safe to do it, or we want to talk about it. We're not going to be socially ostracized for discussing this anymore, or like somebody that makes us feel better about ourselves, or like some issue is a more important. So like in Kamala Harris, honestly, the opinion article about this is that, that Kamala Harris and Gretchen Whitmer would make a winning ticket because they're two women. And then Kamala Harris is Black and Asian, and they should just give Biden the boot. And they're young, and they would be like the total opposite of Trump, who is a man, and they're like prosecutors, and Trump's a convict, and it would just be great. And this is where they're moving towards now. I mean, this is all just happening right now. I just find this really fascinating. And I'm not like a political expert at all. So I didn't want to do this from the standpoint of like, what's really going on politically behind the scenes or anything. But, I just find this very odd. As somebody who has like no buy-in really, because I'm like, neither guy is my guy. I just find this really fascinating when the needle flips this fast. How does that happen organically? I have a very hard time believing that happens organically in the media. And, when I was in TV news, there were press releases sent out all the time by state agencies, by nonprofits, and they would, they were probably just thinking to themselves, this is our personal opinion, interest, or maybe they believe they were giving us the facts. I don't know if they were all saying, we're trying to wage a media campaign, though I think sometimes they were saying that, and they were like intentionally pushing the media in a particular direction. I mean, that happens all the time, especially with the government. It's like, hey, let's have a press conference. Let's get on this before the media picks up on it on its own. And then we're not in charge of the narrative anymore. So something's going on here. TELYRX.club/Alison M. You get 20% off, and you do not need a prescription. If you're somebody like me, and let me just look up EpiPen. Okay. This is what I got, because I had a systemic reaction to, where are you? Here we go. I had a systemic reaction to getting stung by a yellow jacket a couple months ago. I have to carry an EpiPen around with me. They cost $500 when you go to your pharmacy. It's $269 at TELYRX. And like I said, you get 20% off if you go to TELYRX.club/Alison M. They go direct to consumer, and like I said, they will have a doctor review your need. You basically just say you understand what the drug is used for, and they pass that over to the doctor. The doctor approves it. You get your prescription in the mail. You don't need to bring a prescription from a doctor. I don't know. I can't say anything more other than the fact that I would not have an EpiPen if it weren't for TELYRX, because I couldn't afford a $500 EpiPen at my local pharmacy. I got it for a lot cheaper through them. And like I said, you get it fast too. So you don't have to go wait to get an appointment with your doctor, and you don't have to go through the rigmarole of your doctor saying no if they have some kind of political issue or whatever with whatever you're saying. A lot of people concerned about even talking to their doctors this day and age about stuff. So consider checking out telyrx.club/AlisonM. Let me know what you think. I'm glad to have my EpiPen. I also do a lot of vitamin C now. Actually taking a lot of vitamin C. If you didn't know that, it's a great way to detox, way to deal with acute trauma. I found that out through this whole process. High dosing vitamin C is a great way to deal with that kind of stuff. And did you know it also helps you balance your hormones? Vitamin C. It's a great way to balance progesterone and estrogen. If you're somebody who is, I hate to say I'm so old, I'm 42. I'm going to turn 43 in September, and the mother of 2 kids. I'm an old mom. I tell my kids that all the time. I'm an old mom. I need an extra little bit of help. So take a lot of vitamin C. Consider your vitamin C intake. All right, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And tomorrow I will see you with the raw dairy farmer. We'll talk about all that. Looking forward to it.